Hi, I'm Guff, and I get asked one thing more than anything. Now, don't get excited. This video isn't about how I bought an LFA. This video is about how you'll never buy your dream car. Since I was a little kid, I liked Toyotas. Now, for most people, Toyota is the most basic, practical, pedestrian car brand out there. And you're right. But they're also one of the most storied, chock full of racing history, world-beating sports cars, and true motorsports-grade engineering. But none of that really mattered. My love for the Yotas came from somewhere else entirely. I was obsessed with cars pretty much from birth, and it's easy to see why. Everyone around me was into cars. My brothers had some cool cars, but you know what everyone daily drove? Toyotas. The first car I got to drive around was the family Toyota Avalon, and man, I loved that car. It was, like everyone's first car, a gateway to freedom that I could endlessly thrash to and from high school. Everything a car needed to be in my little teenage brain. Well, until this happened. My brother bought a Supra. Yes, a Mark IV 2JZ engine, no shit. Is that a Supra? Supra. And oh boy, cars were never the same. The Supra captivated me, much like how it captivated everyone in the car world. It was a sleek, muscular, elegant sports car that made big power and laid a smackdown on cars 10 years newer than it. Paul Walker drove one, for God's sake. And best of all, it was a Toyota, just like my little Avalon. Of course, my brother ended up selling it when somebody offered him good money. But then, the itch scratched, and my brother bought another Supra. Sold that one, then another Supra, and another, and another, and another, and another, and another, and another. Eventually, we became known as the Supra House. I learned how to drive stick in a Supra. I learned how to wrench on a Supra, and I really, truly fell in love with the car world because of the Supra. So when I came of age and it was time to buy something for myself, can you guess what car I wanted? Yep, you guessed it, not a Supra. Confused? So was I. You'd think that all this history with this car, the fact that I was born and bred to love Toyota, the fact that the Supra was the king of the streets, all that would mean that I had really no choice but to be in love with this car. But I wasn't. Maybe I was just jaded, all those years of being around Supras, or maybe I just wanted something new. But what? Years of watching Best Motoring drew me to the AE86, but no, they're all rust buckets. I could branch out and get a Honda, Integras, Civics, RSXs, all great choices. But I wanted something rear-wheel drive to live out my fantasies of becoming the next Frederick Osbo. And then I saw one of these. A first-generation Celica liftback. Toyota's answer to the American pony cars like the Mustang and the Camaro in the 1970s. And boy, did it look the part. I fell in love with these little Japanese Mustangs. They somehow found a way to look muscly and tough while still being small and cute in typical Japanese fashion. And so I searched and searched and searched, and I couldn't find one. There were plenty of Celica coupes out there, but very few liftbacks, and the ones that were for sale were rusted beyond belief. And so the Celica idea was filed away for another time. But then something new popped up on my radar. The all-new collaboration between Toyota and Subaru, known as the Scion FRS and Subaru BRZ, and boy, did it look awesome. The only problem was, it was a new car, and I couldn't afford a new car. So I didn't buy one. I took the bus to school. And then, a year later, there was a freak hailstorm in the southern US, and some dealer was trying to offload an FRS that was absolutely wrecked by hail damage to the nearest schmuck. You know who that schmuck was? Me. I had my way with that poor automobile, but man, did I fall in love. It was pure fun, and it was the perfect platform for me to learn car control and track driving. I swear it was more fun than any Supra I ever drove. It genuinely seemed like the perfect car to me at the time. And if you asked me in 2014 what my dream car was, I'd tell you, I'm driving it. Right up until I wrecked it. Totally my fault, but the poor FRS had to pay the price. I ended up getting a replacement BRZ, but for some reason, after that, the magic wasn't there anymore. I realized that the enthusiasm I used to have when driving that FRS had started to fade away with the BRZ. Maybe it was because of the wreck, or maybe it was because I got older and busier. I really didn't know. It just didn't feel as exciting. And so, around that same time, I saw this for sale. and we bought it, a Project Supra. I decided to make some videos of us building that car and post them to a little website called YouTube. And you know what? That felt exciting. It felt nice to be back in the car that really started it all for me, and it was nice to be able to build something without constantly worrying if it was gonna throw a connecting rod out the side. Sorry, Subaru. And so I decided to put all of my energy into that, and we ended up making 707 horsepower to the wheels. And boy, was it absolutely terrifying. Being in boost with the throttle wide open in that thing genuinely felt like a near-death experience in the best way possible. Everyone on the planet talks about big turbo Supras with such fervor and admiration, and driving one lived up to every single one of those stories I had heard and read over the years. And anytime I took that car out, people would see me and say, "Man, you're driving my dream car." And you know what? It was actually awful. You see, there's one thing people don't tell you about having a car that's that modified. There's always something wrong with it. First, we had issues with the ECU, then the fuel system, then the turbo, and on and on and on. And when it did work, you had to consult a meteorologist in the morning before driving it to make sure conditions were perfect for traction. Otherwise, there was a 96% chance you'd end up in a tree. It was just too much. And so, I stopped driving it, and eventually, got sold. So, once again, I was back to the drawing board. But this time was gonna be different. I wanted a car that I could actually be happy with. A real dream car that could satisfy that itch. So I went through the usual culprits. Hondas, no. An RX-8, no. It's just BRZs but unreliable. How about an old Celica? Ooh, now there was an idea. I still loved them, and I would look for them all the time, but they were still so hard to find in decent shape, and I simply didn't have the time or patience to fix an old rust bucket. So the next car had to be newer, more refined, speed like the Supra, agile like the FRS, and something when I looked at it, I could really be proud to own. Enter the Mark V Supra. Thanks to the YouTube channel, we were lucky enough to be part of the press launch for the A90 Supra, and I really liked this car. I couldn't stop thinking about it. It was muscly yet nimble, turbo inline-6 power in a short wheelbase, but now with more refinement than ever, thanks to the Germans. Sure, it wasn't a full-fledged Toyota, and I'll admit, that sucked. But the last time Toyota partnered with somebody to make a sports car, I bought 2 of them. So I had high hopes here. But there was a problem, and it was the same problem as last time. It was a new car, and a fancy new car to boot, and I sure as hell couldn't afford that. Of course, Jackie Ding came to the rescue. And after giving the ultimate Supra sacrifice, he sold us his crashed A90 Supra. And so began the A90 saga. Over the next year, we rebuilt this former race car and brought it back to glory. And then, after it was done, we did what all Supra owners should do and gave it more power. Bolt-ons and a tune got this car into the mid 400 horsepower range, and let me tell you, this sucker was quick. It wasn't quite fast like our old Mark IV Supra, but it was just fast enough to be scary. Plus, it didn't break. It was a new car after all, but even with the mods and spirited driving, it just never had a problem. It was exactly what I had been looking for. Something like the old Supra, with a softer edge, quiet, comfortable, refined, and it was fast too. I daily drove it, went to track days, won autocrosses, and after 2 years of flawless ownership, it got kinda boring. This car ticked all of the boxes. It did 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds and got 31 miles to the gallon. And yet, I just couldn't get myself to love it. And more I found myself browsing in the car classified section looking for something else. Being objectively excellent wasn't enough. It needed to speak to that illogical, emotional part of me. And what I realized was, it was right there in front of me the whole time. One of my favorite cars, but one I had always managed to convince myself not to buy. Something that was more connected and raw than the FRSs, more stylish than the Supras, and something that truly spoke to that love of Toyota heritage that I had rather than just paying homage to it. And so I searched, and searched, and searched, and found rust bucket after rust bucket. And then my buddy Richard sent me a link. And here we are. So to answer that question that made me want to shoot this video. Did you finally find your dream car? No. After all these years and all these cars, the one thing that has been constant is that there is no perfect car. Not for me and probably not for most people. Each car I've owned has had its own personality, its own unique set of traits that can endear you and annoy you. And just like people, those personalities often have a time and place in your life, one that eventually gets outgrown. Every car I've owned has enriched my life in some way. They've given me unique perspective on this fascinating world of automobiles that so many of us have immense passion for. And not 1 minute of seat time has ever been wasted effort in my eyes. But now, I understand. Even if one day I get an LFA, my all-time favorite car, I'm sure there will be a point where the luster of that new shiny thing wears off, and I'll look elsewhere for my fix. But for now, I finally have my Celica liftback, and for now, it's exactly what I had dreamed of as a young car enthusiast. And once I get bored of it, I'll get something else. Or maybe, I'll put a V8 in it. Thanks for watching.